still remember the exact smell of the office that morning: fresh coffee, polished wood, and the faint scent of ambition that had kept me going for 15 long years. My name is Alina, and for 15 years I poured my heart, my soul, and every waking hour into Apex Dynamics. I started as a junior analyst right out of college. I was 23, wide-eyed, and determined to prove myself. By the time I turned 38, I was the senior director of operations, the person who kept the entire machine running smoothly. I knew every client by name. I remembered their birthdays. I stayed late when deadlines loomed. I flew across the country when crises hit. While others took vacations, I was the one sending reassuring emails at 2 a.m. saying, "Don't worry, I've got this." They called me the backbone of the company, until the day they decided a backbone wasn't what they needed anymore. It was a Tuesday. I walked into the boardroom expecting the usual quarterly review. Instead, I found 7 serious faces staring back at me. Mr. Harrington, the CEO, didn't even look me in the eye. "Alina," he said, voice flat, "we've decided to make some structural changes. Effective immediately, your position will be transitioning to new leadership." I smiled, confused. New leadership? Is this a promotion? That's when the door opened. In walked a man who looked like he'd never worked a stressful day in his life. Expensive watch, perfect haircut, cocky half-smile. He was 31 years old. "Alina, meet Marcus Langford," Mr. Harrington said. "My son-in-law, he'll be taking over as director of operations starting next week." The room went silent. I could hear my own heartbeat. 15 years. Countless sacrifices, missed family gatherings, canceled trips. Nights I cried in my car from exhaustion. All of it. Replaced by the CEO's son-in-law, I stood there, lips trembling, fighting back the tears that were already burning my eyes. "I built this department," I whispered. Someone cleared their throat awkwardly. Someone else looked at their phone. Marcus just extended his hand like we were old friends. "Heard a lot about you, Alina. I'm sure we'll work great together while you transition." I didn't shake his hand. That night I drove home in complete silence. No music, no tears yet, just numbness. When I finally walked through my apartment door, I collapsed on the couch and let it all out. 15 years of loyalty, erased in one 15-minute meeting. I thought that was the worst day of my life. I was wrong, because 3 days later, my phone rang. The first 2 weeks after the announcement were pure hell. They didn't even let me train Marcus properly. They gave him my office, the one with the big window I had earned after 12 years. They moved me to a smaller desk on the open floor. A special projects role, they called it. Everyone knew what it really was. A waiting room before they pushed me out completely. I watched Marcus make decision after decision that I knew would hurt the company. He canceled long-standing client contracts because they didn't look impressive enough. He replaced 3 of my best team members with his friends from college. He spent more time posting on LinkedIn about fresh leadership than actually leading, and the worst part, the board loved him. Of course they did. He was family now. I started having panic attacks in the bathroom. I stopped sleeping. My best friend Sarah begged me to quit, but I couldn't. This job wasn't just a paycheck, it was my identity. I had given it my youth, my best years. One afternoon I overheard 2 executives laughing near the coffee machine. "Yeah, Marcus is clearly out of his depth, but what are you gonna do? He's the boss's son-in-law. Alina was great, but blood is thicker than competence." I stood there frozen, holding my mug so tightly I thought it would shatter. That evening I finally broke down and called my mother. They threw me away like I was nothing. She cried with me. Then she said the words that planted the first seed. "Baby, sometimes God removes you from a place because he's protecting you or preparing you for something bigger." I didn't believe her then. 2 weeks later, they gave me the formal termination papers. "Mutual separation," the document said, as if I had any choice. The severance was decent, but it felt like blood money. I cleaned out my desk on a Friday afternoon while most people were already gone for the weekend. Marcus had the nerve to stop by. "No hard feelings, right, Alina? This is just business." I looked at him for a long moment. "You have no idea what you've done," I said quietly. He laughed. "Come on, it's not personal." But it was. It was deeply, painfully personal. I drove away from that building with my box of belongings in the passenger seat, feeling completely shattered. 15 years. Gone. I spent the next month in darkness, literally and emotionally. Curtains closed. Phone on silent. Eating only when I remembered to. The betrayal felt like it had hollowed me out until that phone call. It was a Thursday evening. My phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer. But some quiet voice inside told me to pick up. This is Richard Caldwell. We worked together briefly at the industry conference in Chicago 6 years ago. Do you have a minute? Richard Caldwell, one of the most respected names in our industry. A man who had built and sold 3 companies. I sat up slowly. I heard what happened at Apex, he continued. Word travels fast in our circle. I'm calling because I'm putting together something different, a new venture, and I need someone who actually knows how to run operations, not someone's son-in-law, someone like you. Heart started beating faster. He told me about his vision, a direct competitor to Apex, but with better technology, better culture, and zero tolerance for nepotism. He had major investors already lined up. What he didn't have was someone who knew the industry inside out, someone who knew Apex's weaknesses, someone who had been deeply, personally betrayed by them. I'm not asking you to do anything unethical, Richard said carefully. I'm asking you to build something better. Are you interested? I looked around my dark apartment, at the box from my desk still sitting unopened in the corner, and for the first time in weeks, I felt something other than pain. I felt purpose. I said yes. The next 8 months were the hardest and most exhilarating of my life. I worked with Richard's team to build everything from the ground up. We hired several people who had quietly left Apex over the years because of the toxic new culture. We developed systems that were more efficient than anything I had built before. And yes, I used every bit of knowledge I had gained in 15 years to make sure we were better in every way that mattered. We launched quietly at first. Then we started winning clients. One by one, companies that had been with Apex for years started switching to us. They told us the same thing. The service just isn't the same anymore. Marcus was struggling publicly now. Industry blogs were starting to notice. Nepotism at Apex Dynamics causing major client loss. One headline read. The phone calls from old colleagues started coming in. They told me stories of Marcus blaming everyone else for his mistakes, of the board growing restless, of Mr. Harrington looking more stressed than they had ever seen him. Then came the day I had been quietly waiting for. We landed Apex's biggest client, the one that made up nearly 25% of their revenue. The client I had personally nurtured for 12 years. When the news broke internally at Apex, chaos erupted. I was at our new office when my phone rang again. This time, it was a former board member who had always respected me. Alina there in emergency meetings. Marcus is finished. They're looking for someone to stabilize things. I smiled for the first time in a long time. I hope they find the right person, I said calmly. Someone competent. Weeks later, I received a message from an unknown number. It was Marcus. I was wrong. I underestimated you. Can we talk? I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I blocked the number because this wasn't about destroying him. It was about building something they couldn't take away from me. Today, our company is thriving. We've grown faster than anyone expected. I wake up every morning excited to go to work again. Not because I need to prove anything anymore, but because I finally understand my worth. The betrayal that nearly broke me became the bridge to the life I was always meant to live. If you're watching this right now and you've been replaced, overlooked, or betrayed after giving everything to someone or something, I want you to hear me. Your value was never dependent on their recognition. Sometimes the most painful doors close so that the right ones can open. 15 years at Apex taught me how to work hard. Losing everything taught me how to rise. And that phone call, it didn't just change everything. It reminded me who I really was. My name is Alina. And this is only the beginning of my story.